Oh, hey. Okay, so what we're going to be doing today is connecting an Access database to Excel and inserting a row or data or any type of data, but in this case, we're just insert a new row of data. So first things first, just save down your workbook. Reason being is I've dropped the Access database that we're going to be connecting to in the same location of the Excel sheet, which is on my desktop. Make sure you select your Microsoft ActiveX, whatever object library you have. Mine, I believe, is a 6.0 or 6.1. Okay, so now define your data source as a string. This is going to be our string location of our Access database. Okay, the three values we're going to be inputting into the database, Q1, Q2, and Q3, define those as a string. Option explicit isn't on, so you don't necessarily need to do this if you're in a rush, but it's just a good habit to get into. So Q1, Q2, and Q3, we're just going to give bogus information. This is the information that's going to be injected into our database. You can obviously link this to a user form, or if you have a work spreadsheet that you've got to put into a database that's specific, you can always interject these, or insert these into your database, as well as updating any specific points, just depending on your SQL statement that you're going to be using. So our data source, we're using this workbook.path, and then the name of my database. So what it's going to do is going to pick up the location of this workbook, which is the same location as the database, and then just plug it into the data source string. Create our error handling. We'll get that a little bit later. So what we're doing is we're defining our connection. So I always use con1 as adodb.connection. We're going to be defining our record set as an ADODB record. So our string connection. So again, mine is going to be an ACE 12.0, so OLEDB 12.0. I know some people can use Jet 4. There's actually a couple of other ways you can use string connection to connect to a database. This one works for my computer, so totally fine with that. So we're connecting to our data source, which is the string location of our database. So what I'm doing right here is I throw this onto a loop just in case the database is open or someone else is accessing the data, and it's just going to wait until it can pick it up, and then if it can pick it up, then it's just gonna complete the macro. If it can't, it will time out after 30 seconds. So we're going to set our con1 as a new ADODB connection, and we're going to open this. But one thing is we need to set our connection string. So there we go. So we've set our con1's new connection, and then we're telling it where we're connecting to, and we're going to open the connection, which the syntax pretty much makes sense. This is going to be our ciao. This is going to be our SQL string that we're going to send the command to grab the data, see what happens. Hopefully it's good. When you have your headers for your Access database, it's just good habit to use these square brackets to identify them. Typically, you have to do this anyway if the headers have more than one space in between the name. And the values, because I believe they're string values, I gotta remember this, but you use the single apostrophe to identify specific values. So now what we're going to do is we're going to execute our string command, and we're throwing this on a loop just in case. And then once we've inserted the data, we're going to close our connection. This is going to be our case error number. Now this one's specific to Access database being open. I don't know this one off by heart. I just have this written down somewhere, just so I know. So basically, if our time 1 is less than now, we're going to let you know that there is a server timeout issue because we've lost our bet with opening that connection and inserting the data within 30 seconds and exit sub. So we're almost done here. It's going to show you a quick way of running through this. So I'm going to show you the database. So here it is, pretty simple. And insert it in, close the connection, and it takes a second for it to refresh, so typically you can just close the database and open it up, and there it is. There's the new data that was inserted by our VBA macro. So hopefully that helps. Let me know if it doesn't. And cheers.